Maryland volleyball continues to make strides in the toughest conference in the country, and with just 4 games left in the regular season, the Terps are hoping to finish 2022 on a high note. It's time to go all in on the volleyball program here on the Left Bench in Focus.
You know, that's the atmosphere we want to build.
Like, we gotta communicate, we gotta work together.
Welcome everyone to the Left Bench in Focus, presented by Terps and Sports Central. I'm Jonas, that's Nathan Schwartz, and we're thrilled to be back with you this week talking all things Maryland volleyball.
And with the majority of the season already in the books, we've got a lot to catch you up on, starting with this past weekend when the Terps hit the road to face Minnesota and Wisconsin. Historically, trips to the upper Midwest have been nightmares for Maryland volleyball, and Jonas, this weekend was no different.
Unfortunately, it was not. Maryland traveled to Minneapolis on Friday to take on number 9 Minnesota. The Terps were coming off a decisive win against Iowa, but this Gophers team proved to be a tougher challenge. Minnesota dominated the first set 25-12 as the Terps were unable to show any kind of consistency. Maryland started challenging the Gophers in the second set, but then Minnesota's Rachel Kilkelly stepped up to the serve and won 8 points in a row, including 3 aces, making the score 23-11. Minnesota would go on to win the second set 25-13, and they kept that momentum in the third set, winning it 25-16 and sweeping the Terps.
In 2021, Maryland put off an improbable upset at the Pavilion to take down the eventual national champions, the Wisconsin Badgers. But in their matchup on Saturday, the number 3 Badgers didn't mess around. Maryland kept things close in the first set as Sam Sire led the way with 6 kills. Wisconsin broke a 22-all tie with 3 straight points to take the opening set. But after that, the momentum stayed with the Badgers. The second and third sets were dominated by Wisconsin, with the Badgers coming out on top 25-15 in set 2 and 25-18 in the third. Maryland comes back to College Park with a 5-11 conference record and will face off against the Ohio State Buckeyes for the first and only time this season on Friday. The number 6 Buckeyes currently sit at second in the Big Ten and have one of the best players in the conference in Gabby Gonzalez. Gonzalez currently sits at 6th in the conference in points, so if the Terps want to pull off the major upset, stopping Gonzalez will have to be a top priority.
Yeah, after Ohio State, Maryland will face off against Michigan at home, their first unranked opponent in 4 games. The Wolverines swept Maryland in both of their matchups last season. Most recently, Michigan dominated the Terps at the Xfinity Center, recording 43 kills to Maryland's 32. One of the few highlights of the Terps in the last year's matchup was then sophomore Sam Sire, who led the team in kills with 11. The Terps will likely need another stellar performance from Sire to beat the Wolverines this time around. Maryland head coach Adam Hughes announced the signing of 2 new recruits last week, starting with Eva Rohrbach from San Diego, California. Rohrbach is a 6'2" middle blocker from La Costa Canyon High School. She was named to the class of 2023 top 150 list in 2021, as well as the 2021 All-Coastal League first team. Here's what the Terps' new West Coast edition had to say about joining the team.
Hi, I'm Eva Rohrbach, and I'm from San Diego, California, and I chose Maryland for the amazing academic and athletic opportunities and the amazing coaching staff. I can't wait to be on campus. Go Terps!
Coach Hughes also found a local product to add to the 2023 recruiting class. PG County native Sydney Bryant is a top 150 recruit in the class of 2023, according to Prep Volleyball Class, and is the nominee for the Virginia Gatorade Player of the Year award. She attends Flint Hill High School in Oakton, Virginia, the same high school that current Terps Layla Ricks and Zoe Huang attended. Here's Bryant on what it means to join the Terp family.
Hi, I'm Sydney Bryant. I'm so excited to be joining the Terp family. I chose Maryland because of the amazing coaching staff and team and the academic opportunities that it provides. Go Terps!
Adam Hughes is now in year 5 at the helm of the program, so let's take a look at Hughes' tenure as head coach. Coming up short has been a recurring theme of the Hughes era, like in 2018 when the Terps were one of the first 4 teams left out of the NCAA tournament. Hughes currently has a 69-75 record as a head coach, failing to reach the tournament in each season. The former Penn State assistant has not finished with a conference record above 500 in any of his 5 years. And after taking a step forward in 2021, the program has not exactly built on that success in 2022, as its record stands at exactly 500 with 4 matches to play. And keep it right here, because when we come back, we'll be joined by Big Ten Network volleyball analyst Emily Ehman to discuss the progress Maryland has made in the conference under Adam Hughes.
And later, we'll crown our top 5 plays from the season so far. Don't go anywhere.
There's so many rewards in life. You coming into our home was one of the greatest rewards we could have ever had.
You know, it took 20 years, and I got my 3rd child, who was 17 at the time.
It's so cool to watch the adult that you've become, and you really have done as much for us as you think we've done for you.
Welcome back to the Left Bench in Focus, brought to you by Terps and Sports Central. I'm Nathan Schwartz, joined alongside by Jonas Evans, and we've mentioned it a few times already on this broadcast, but the Big Ten is no doubt the best volleyball conference in the country, Jonas.
It is, and it's not even that close. So to talk a little Big Ten volleyball and Maryland's place within that conference, we're lucky to be joined by BTN volleyball analyst, guru, among other titles, Emily Ehman.
Emily, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
You just summarized the Adam Hughes era in a nutshell, and although there have been snippets of triumph over the past couple of years, it seems like the Terps still have yet to break through in the conference. You competed against Hughes-coached teams for the 2 years and have covered them for a couple more. What has prevented them from that big breakthrough for Maryland?
Maryland is making strides in the Big Ten, but it's difficult for any team to really build up a team within the Big Ten conference. It is the best volleyball conference in the country. Like you said, it's not even close. I mean, this team has won 9 of the last 15 NCAA titles at any given time. There are 6 to 8 teams in the AVCA poll, usually 6 to 8 teams also in the NCAA tournament. So when you're trying to build up a team in a conference that is so dominant, multiple teams in the top 10 that you're playing night to night, it's difficult to build up any program. But I will say, in the Adam Hughes era, they have made tremendous strides. They've had a lot of firsts in the program. I think back to 2018 in his first season as head coach, their program best 9 Big Ten wins and most on the road in 13 years. And since then, you mentioned it kind of went down a little bit in 19 and 20, having that 5-15 record. But last season, they did incredible. Their 19 wins were the most since 2010. They started 13-0, and I remember them taking down Wisconsin to start the Big Ten season, who was undefeated at the time, and went on to win the national championship. And this season, I think they're doing incredibly well, given how big and how deep the Big Ten is this season. But I think they've looked really good. And what's kept them going in this has been, I believe, their blocking and their serving. They're the best blocking team in the country this season. They were last season, and they're still in the top 3 or 4 in terms of aces per set. And they do a really good job with their serve and block that I think has led them to have so much success that they've had.
And Emily, you mentioned the success that they've had. They had a 3-match road winning streak in the middle of October, and you could say that's probably the highlight of their season so far. But in your opinion, what specifically has been the most encouraging part of the team in 2022?
In 2022, I think it's the collective effort of the group. I think back to last season, and yes, they had that 7-13 record, but they've had a lot of pieces kind of switch. I thought them bringing in Anastasia Russ from Pitt was an incredible adjustment for this team, getting even more production from a blocking front, added on to middle blocker Raynell Jones, who last season led the country in blocks per set, and this season is top in that category as well. But they've improved on their numbers from last season. I mean, they're first in the entire country in blocks per set, and it's not even that close. They're at 3.25 blocks a set. The next closest is in the low 3s. So they are just strides beyond everyone in terms of blocking. And I think what we've seen year to year in that category, along with serving, has been really encouraging to see this team grow. They might not have the staple wins that they might have had last season, taking down Wisconsin, but they have had some good ones, including a sweep over Purdue at Purdue, one of the toughest places to play in the Big Ten.
Yeah, and so speaking of that Big Ten schedule starting, we've seen multiple instances where they've struggled to close out sets and matches in those close matches. What do you think needs to change for this Maryland team to start performing better in those tense match-deciding situations?
Maryland has the defense in the block and serving to stay in any game, but where they still need to make strides and close those sets is really their offense. I think Sid Dowler does an incredible job distributing the ball well, but a lot of times her hitters aren't able to put it down. I think that comes from her setting location, sometimes her setting decision, maybe setting the wrong people at wrong times, but it really comes down to getting those middles involved. When you have a middle like Raynell Jones, you got to get her the ball at any chance that you can. To get the middles involved, though, you have to have good passing. I think Maryland has struggled at times on the passing front, getting good balls in system to let Dowler do her job and distribute the offense well. But in those close match situations, they have to have a player that they can go to put a ball down. It has been Sam Sire a lot of the time, but I think they are still looking to take that extra leap and provide more balance from getting those middles like Raynell Jones involved in the game.
And you just briefly mentioned Sam Sire. I want to talk about her a little bit before we talk about the state of the conference as a whole. Sire's been an integral cog on this team for the past couple years now. What can you just say about her play over the past couple seasons?
She's improved in a lot of ways. I think she's become a lot more rangy on her attack. So she's not just hitting one specific spot of the court, but she's mixing it up based on the set that she's given. She's also added a few more shots in her arsenal, getting a little bit more shotty in there, throwing in tips and roll shots when she can. Her blocking has also improved, and that's going to happen when you're on one of the best blocking teams in the country. I also think she does better against a bigger block, which that comes back to practice. When you're playing against some of the best blockers in the country, that's going to improve for her. But from what we've seen year to year, she's done an incredible job, taking really big leaps for this team. And they need a player like Sam Sire to step up in those big moments when they need a kill. They have to rely on her, and they have. But again, I would like to see them switch it up just a little bit more and not be so reliant on Sire and expect her to get that big kill every time.
And back on August 2nd, the Big Ten held its inaugural Big Ten Volleyball Media Days, which marked the first time a conference hosted a preseason volleyball media event. So I just want to hear your thoughts on how big of a step that was for the Big Ten Conference, not only in elevating women's sports, but also getting more exposure for the sport of volleyball.
Yeah, Big Ten Volleyball Media Days was one of the most exciting days of the year, I think, for all us that cover volleyball and just volleyball fans, and for the athletes and the coaches. I mean, it was the first time for any conference in any Olympic sport to do any kind of media days, but especially for volleyball at a time where our sport is massively booming. We are breaking attendance records. We're breaking viewership records. We are exploding. And it was so exciting to see the Big Ten throw so much, time, energy, money into an event to host all 14 teams, 2 players and the head coach, along with some staff for each team come through. And it was just so exciting. I mean, the players were really excited to be there. The coaches were excited to be there. It was a great event to have all of these athletes and coaches and people around the sport just in one room, because that's never happened before. A lot of other conferences have a conference tournament where maybe you have a big dinner before the conference tournament starts, or you have at least all the athletes in one singular room. That's never happened before in the Big Ten, especially in recent years. So to have all of these players and coaches, programs into one place at one time, it was really cool to see for our sport, for our conference, and for all these athletes that deserve this coverage.
Yeah, and then sticking with the Big Ten, there are a ton of talented teams in this conference. We've talked about that across the board. And the Wisconsin Badgers even managed to win the NCAA title last season. In your eyes, do you think it'll be a Big Ten team that'll win it again this year for the second year in a row? And if so, who will that be?
Oh, man, it's so tough to tell. I mean, this season, we've seen this conference and really the entire country be deeper than it ever has been. I think with that extra COVID year of eligibility, you're seeing 5th years, 6th years come back, which is making, it's creating a lot of parity within the Big Ten conference, but just in the nation as a whole. Those teams that are typically at the bottom of the conference, bottom of the nation, they're getting better, especially in the Big Ten. And I would say for the tournament, I would expect at least one Big Ten team to be in the Final Four, if not 2. I would say the best teams that have a chance to do it would be Wisconsin, Ohio State, or Nebraska, the 3 teams that are fighting for a Big Ten title right now. We'll see. They are neck and neck. We had a crazy match last weekend where Ohio State took down Nebraska in 4 sets. They're all vying for a top 4 seed for the NCAA tournament and really hoping to get back to that championship match for Wisconsin and Nebraska. Ohio State also wants to get there, and I think they have the capability of doing it. But we'll see. I mean, the tournament's always crazy, and I think this year there's going to be more upsets than ever just with the parity that we're seeing across the country.
Well, this was a blast, Emily. Thanks again for coming on the show, and we hope to talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me.
You can find Emily on Twitter at Emily Ehman, and you're sure to find her on Big Ten Network volleyball broadcasts as well.
And now the wait is finally over as we are ready to crown our top 5 plays of the year. Nate, get us started.
All right, at number 5, it's Layla Ricks and Raynell Jones getting some air to get a kill against Rutgers. Textbook teamwork from those two.
At number 4, it's Raynell Jones knocking down a wild return, catching the defense sleeping. A great heads-up play from the graduate student.
Now at number 3, it's Sam Sire putting the ball in the perfect spot to give Maryland the point. What a hit by Sire.
At number 2, it's Sydney Dowler showing off some creativity with this fake out. Had the opponents stunned. No one saw that one coming. Look at that, finding right the corner in there, up there. That was really good.
And our number 1 play goes to Layla Ivy, who had a monster kill against Iowa. Just look at the velocity on that hit. Congrats to Layla for having our top play. And would you look at that, we're all out of time for today. Thanks for joining us on this edition of the Left Bench in Focus. TLB is back next week with Kevin McNulty and Kira Bruno behind the desk, and you don't want to get a long break from us either, Jonas.
Yeah, we'll be here to break down Maryland football season and preview its bowl matchup on November 29th. In the meantime, be sure to keep up with all of Terrapin Sports Central's coverage on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and online at terrapinsportscentral.com.
See you next time.